Good afternoon, students, and welcome back to a series of lectures in science education. Today, we will be learning two topics. One is the characteristics of a good science textbook, and the second one will be approaches of organizing curriculum. So, let's start with the first topic. What are the characteristics of a good science textbook? See, textbook is a basic tool for a teacher as well as a learner. So the textbook should have certain essential features or characteristics to make it a good tool, an effective tool. So let's see what are these characteristics. The characteristics of a textbook is arranged in two groups. First one is the external characteristics, and the second part is the internal characteristics. So first let's see the external characteristics. What are the external characteristics? Uh, First point is the mechanical features of the book. What comes under the mechanical features? That is the paper, the print, and the binding of the textbook. So the paper should be of good quality, the print should be also of good quality, and the binding should be proper. The size of the textbook, it should be appropriate, not too big or not too small. Uh, it, the child should be comfortable carrying the textbook. And then the the physical characteristic should be appealing to the child. That means the paper should be of good quality. The print should also be visible and of good quality. Then the print size should be in accordance to the age of the child. That means for lower grade children, you may have a bigger print size, and as you grow older, for bigger children, the print size can become a little smaller. There should not be any printing errors in the textbook. Then the price of the textbook should be reasonable enough that every child can afford to buy a textbook. So that's about the physical first aspect, that is the mechanical features of the textbook. Then another aspect of the external feature is every textbook should contain an index and a glossary. All of you know what's an index. Index comes somewhere in the front part of the textbook, the first pages of the textbook. This will give a summary of the content inside the textbook, and then at the end of the textbook there should be a glossary which will give the technical terms, a summary and a brief explanation of the technical terms inside the textbook. So whatever scientific terms are there in the textbook, in the glossary, the meaning of those words should be given. Then the textbook should be well illustrated. That means textbook should have diagrams or pictures or charts, tables, etc. whenever needed, and these pictures should be of very clear quality. The print should be very clear. The labeling of the diagrams also should be very correct and clear. So all scientific principles should be illustrated through diagrams or sketches or pictures, tables, charts, etc., and it should be clear illustrations. So that's about the physical features of a textbook. So or the external features, the points included are the physical features, there should be an index in the glossary, the print should be appropriate, and it should be well illustrated. Now let's see the internal characteristics of a textbook. The first point is that it should be written by a knowledgeable, experienced, and qualified author. The person who writes the textbook should be an authority in the knowledge to write that textbook. And the content in the textbook should be so arranged that it is based on the aims and objectives of that subject. The Content inside should be child-centered. That means whatever content matter, subject matter is there in the textbook, it should be selected and arranged in such a way that it caters to the child with respect to his age, ability, and interest. The language also should be considering all these aspects of a child. So it should be child-centered. It should have useful experiences and exercises. The textbook should not be just uh, words and words and words, but words and words which are the content only, that means facts and theories only. But in addition to that, the textbook should provide certain experiments, activities, exercise, etc. for the child, so that the child can practice and do something related to the theory which they are learning. The content should be arranged in a logical and systematic manner. The content presented in the textbook should be arranged in a particular manner. That means it should be arranged following the maxims of teaching. Like the content should be presented from known to unknown, simple to complex, concrete to abstract, and empirical to rational. All these points should be kept in mind while arranging the content matter in the textbook. The language in the textbook should be age appropriate. For its lower grade children, the language should be simple enough. And as you go higher in the standards, you have to increase the complexity of the language in accordance to the grade level. It should suggest ways of teaching and learning. In the textbook itself, actually normally as accompanied by a textbook, there should always be a handbook for the teachers, which will give the suggested activities for teaching every content part. So different teaching learning strategies appropriate for each content should be given in the textbook. When the textbook is suggesting these methods, it should suggest progressive methods of teaching also, not just the traditional chalk and talk lecture or demonstration methods, but the textbook should suggest the new methods of teaching the different concepts in science. Then the next feature, it should remain under constant modification and revision. The textbook should undergo research and revision periodically. Every 2 years, the textbook has to be revised, adding the new developments in the field of science or deleting which is some knowledge that has become obsolete. So it has to be continuously reviewed and revised and updated. The textbook should be free of bias. That means no content should reflect any sort of bias in the textbook. Like there should not be any comments or statements which point towards gender bias. There should not be anything uh, uh, hurting a particular religion or a particular region or a particular group of people, nothing like that. So the textbook, the content and the language should be free of any bias. So these are the characteristics of a good textbook. So characteristics are clubbed under two headings: external and internal. External deals with the physical aspect, the paper, the print, the illustrations, the print clarity, etc. Internal characteristics deal with the content inside the textbook. It should be age appropriate, it should be presented in a logical manner, it should suggest activities and experiments for the child, and it should be free from bias. Okay, that's all about that content. Now let's see the next second part of today's lecture. That's about organizing a content. Organizing the content in the curriculum or in the textbook. So how the content matter should be arranged in a textbook? It can be following one of the two approaches. The two approaches which you have to study is the concentric approach and the topical approach. So two approaches of curriculum organization or content organization is concentric approach and topical approach. So let's first see the concentric approach. Concentric approach can actually be when a content is organized on the basis of concentric approach, it will look like the content is arranged in the form of concentric circles or in the form of a spiral. You can imagine it. So if it's a concentric circle, the smaller most circle will contain the basic knowledge of a particular topic. Then the next circle will contain the content which is of a little higher level compared to the basic. Then the third circle will contain a content which is again a little higher in complexity. Like that, this continues. So this representation shows that the content is presented at different levels of schooling with the most simple and the fundamental and the basic knowledge of the topic presented in the lower classes, and then the topic is added, or the complexity of the content of the topic is added year after that. Every successive years the topic becomes more and more complex. In concentric approach, knowledge is widening slowly and steadily. In the concentric approach, knowledge gets widened and deepened. That means the amount of knowledge increases year after year, and the complexity of the knowledge also increases year after year. The subject matter is spread over a number of years. In the introductory years, elementary knowledge is given. In the next year, little higher level knowledge, and this is continued for the subsequent years. So that is the approach of concentric way. So what are the characteristics? Simple units are taught first, followed by the complex units. Then the degree of difficulty increases as one goes far from the center. Principle of maturity is kept in mind while organizing the content. Now, what are the merits? It's a psychologically sound method because the content is selected according to the grade level of the child. In the lower level, only the basic and the simple aspect of the content is presented. Then at the next level, when the child grows in ability, then the next level of content is given. So it's a psychologically sound way of organizing content. Content is arranged in accordance to the receptivity of the child, the capacity of the learner. It is based on the maxim of simple to complex and general to particular. It fosters continuous and unbroken learning because the same topic is dealt every year, so it's continuously dealing the topic. So because it's continuously dealing with with the topic every year, it creates a lasting impression in the mind of the child. So because revision is done every year, child retains the topic in his mind. So it's good for memory, good for learning. It caters to the mental development and progress of the students. Now some demerits. Because whenever you start with the same topic at the next level, the teacher automatically will revise the basics of that topic which the child has learned in the lower class. So this will be a sort of repetition for the child, and this repetition could be a limitation that the child becomes bored or it becomes monotonous for the child. So it's an unpsychological approach. Some people, if the teacher doesn't revisit the topic every year, the child might have forgotten the basic knowledge, and then the child will not be able to grasp the new knowledge. That's again a limitation. It requires able and smart teachers, experienced teachers, to divide the content and present it. If if the topic is too small, it may not create any permanent impression. If at one level you don't teach them substantial amount of knowledge on the topic, then it might not create the required impression on the child. And if the topic is not properly divided, then it becomes a failure, because if you don't properly divide and arrange the topic and you just haphazardly do that, then it becomes you will be doing the complex part you will arrange first, and then you might go to the simple part. So that requires experience on part of the teacher to arrange it. So that's about concentric approach. Let's see the topical approach. It is somewhat the opposite of the concentric approach. In this topical approach, one topic is taken and the whole topic is taught in the same year. Easy and difficult parts of the same topic are dealt in the same year itself. That is topical approach. A topic is taken as a unified whole in itself and as an unbreak. You cannot break it. You have to teach it in one go. That's how it is taught. So such an approach is suitable for certain topics where the topic remains intact. You cannot break it. So in that cases, you can teach it in one stage itself. Merits of topical approach. The child can concentrate on a particular topic completely, and teacher also can impart all the necessary needed and knowledge and illustration related to the topic in completeness. Students' attention is not diverted to other topics. Topic is dealt for a sufficiently long time in a particular academic year. Students learn right from the basic to the complete highest level of the knowledge. These can be considered as merits of a topical approach. Students' ability, creativity, capacity is all completely directed towards the topic, so it becomes beneficial. Demerits, it's an unpsychological because difficulty level of the students is not considered. It is not arranged in accordance to the ability level, or the simple plus the complex aspect of a topic is taught in one stretch, so that's a limitation. Teachers might get bored teaching the same topic for a long time in the same standard. Interest of the students also could wane after a few periods on the topic. Since the topic is dealt exhaustively in the first year itself, it will not remain in their memory once they learn it, and then it's not revisited, so it will just vanish from their memory. It will not create permanent knowledge in the mind of the child. So that's all for today. So the two approaches of curriculum organization, content organization is concentric approach and topical approach. In concentric approach, the content of a topic is divided into subtopics, and each subtopic is taught at different levels of learning in increasing complexity. Whereas in the topical approach, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. The whole topic is taken and it is taught to the students in one lot in the same year itself. The easy parts, the difficult parts, the simple ones, the complex, everything. The topic is kept intact and taught in the same level itself. So that's it for today. Thank you, students.